Okay, you should have a big equilibrium homework packet. Sorry about that. It's the biggest one of the class. They get smaller. But if you understand it, you thoroughly understand equilibrium. Now we're doing supply and demand together. So at various prices you have quantities demanded and quantities supplied. And it wants you to, I'm going to just do it real rough here, but you want to graph it carefully here where it's supposed to be. And where the two curves cross, of course, is equilibrium. It's going to say under these conditions, competitive market forces, that's code for equilibrium, would tend to establish a price and quantity. What's asking for the price and quantity that corresponds to equilibrium? And then let's say the price was 30 cents right here. Then buyers want to buy how many and sellers want to sell how many. Well, you can see right here, buyers want to buy 150 and sellers want to sell 250. Would that be a shortage or a surplus? It would be a surplus because the quantity supplied exceeds the quantity demanded. And here it just wants you to know, put in the amount of the surplus, the difference between these two numbers. It's 100 million grapes. And then competitive market forces want the price to do what? They want to go back to equilibrium. In this case, it's going to be a from here down to here. It's going to be a decrease back to the equilibrium, and it wants you to state the equilibrium price and quantity here again. And then here it's saying the price is 20 cents. So you've got a shortage situation. Now, I always forget to mark this out. Do not, I need my pen. Do not do this part right here, okay? Sorry, it's a concept we're not going to worry about. And then ditto for that line, those two lines right there. Now, we're going to get a new supply schedule, and we're going to draw that. It's going to be something like this. As you see, it will be a decrease in supply, and so your equilibrium is always the two most recent, where the two most recent curves meet. And so it'll ask you some questions about that. Pretty straightforward. Then you got a new demand, which if you graph, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of this, and so this will be your new equilibrium. Yeah, and that's how you do that. Now, let's move on here. This is a very important page right here, because here's the thing. As confusing as this seems, there's only four things that can happen. Supply can increase, supply can decrease, demand can increase, or demand can decrease. And when those things happen, equilibrium price and quantity do the exact same thing every time. So we're talking about jelly beans, the market for jelly beans, and here are the four possibilities of what can happen. I just want you to correspond graph A, B, C, or D with the event here. Price of sugar increases. I look at my supply and demand handout. Is that a supply thing or a demand thing? Well, it's an input price, so clearly it's supply. So it's got to be one of these first two where supply changes. If the price of sugar goes up, would that increase or decrease the supply of jelly beans? Well, it would decrease them because the input price goes up. They're less profitable to sell. Sellers will sell less. And so the answer to this one is B. So you just put a B there. Why that didn't quite work. Let's try it one more time. Here we go. Okay. And then so on. Price of bubble gum, a close substitute for jelly beans. That's stupid, but it says they're substitutes. Machine invented making jelly beans cheaper. That's technology. Government puts a tax on foreign jelly beans. That locks out the foreigners. That's number of sellers. Soda's a complementary good for jelly beans. I've never understood that. That makes no sense, but take it at face value. And then widespread prosperity is income. And this is a good sheet to go back to and study. You'll note that when supply changes, price and quantity do opposite things. And when demand changes, price and quantity will change together in the same direction as demand. Now let's move on here. And this is kind of confusing, so I'm going to help you out a little bit here. First of all, ignore reason. You don't have to list a reason, okay? You just you draw a curve, and you circle a choice for price and a choice for quantity. So a hurricane destroys a bunch of apple orchards in Connecticut. And so what does this do to apples in Boston? Supply or demand? Well, clearly, my demand for apples is irrelevant to whether the orchards are destroyed or not. It's a supply thing. It's the number of sellers. And supply is going to decrease. Decrease is a curve shift left. So you would draw the curve. And if you look at the chain between the two equilibriums, the price is going to rise, obviously, and the quantity sold is going to fall, and that makes sense, right? So we got more expensive apples. What about land devoted to apple orchards in the state of Washington? Well, the price went up, and the law of supply says suppliers are going to supply more. So over on the other side of the country, they're going to supply more apples, and that means they got to plant more apple trees. So demand for land to do that is going to increase. I will let you put the answer. By the way, unchanged is never right in these examples. Apples grown in the state of Washington. Well, apples in New England are more expensive now. So Washington apples are sort of a substitute. So demand for those cheaper Washington apples is going to go up. Okay. What about pears? Well, in both of our previous apple examples on the previous page, apples were more expensive, and so pears are a substitute. People will therefore turn to pears. The demand for them will increase. What about apple pies? Well, apples are an ingredient input in apple pies, and they're going to be the supply of apple pies, therefore, will decrease, right? And circle the appropriate choice here. Remember, you don't have to worry about reason. Okay, one more kind of exercise here, and it's kind of one thing leads to another. You need to read this carefully, but it says there's basically potato growing technology, new fertilizer, or new fertilizer, and so that's going in all these cases, and on your test, demand or supply will change, not both. All right, so got this new technology. Is that supply or demand? Well, it's technology. I mean, so that's obviously supply, and it's going to increase. Supply of potatoes is going to increase if there's new technology. So I'm going to circle increase for supply, and I'm going to circle the flat, no change, for demand. And these first two rows, and your test will have a similar section on this. Demand will change, supply, not both. One will change, one will not. However, on these two rows, price and quantity both will change. Do not circle a no change on price and quantity. Now, you don't have to on this, but if I were to draw this, let's see, supply increasing. It's a curve shift here. Oh, I can see the price is going to go down, and the quantities supplied is going to go up. And that makes sense if there's this cool new fertilizer technology. So let's focus on price before moving to the next item. Potatoes are cheaper. And it says in the information above that potatoes and bread are substitutes. That's kind of dumb, but let's say it's true. So that's a demand thing. Potatoes are cheaper and people are buying more potatoes. They're therefore going to demand less bread. Supply is unchanged. And then well, I'll let you figure the rest out. Increased demand for briefcases and luggage made of leather. And so taste and preferences for leather going up. That means leather shoes are going to be more expensive. And think of these two things as complements to leather shoes. All right, what about coffee? There's a frost and destroys half the world's coffee crop. I can't understand where there's frost where people grow tropical areas, but whatever. So that's a supply thing. That just means a bunch of the sellers are gone. Tea is a substitute for coffee, and think of cream and automatic coffee makers as complements to coffee. And coffee is going to be more expensive, people buying less of it, so you can figure that out. And then finally, well, this one's actually pretty straightforward. Tie clasps and neckties are complements to dress shirts. So these three columns will all have the same result. Explains that people are buying more sport shirts and fewer dress shirts. All right, good luck.